Congresswoman Rashida Tlaib says, and I quote, "Policing in our country is inherently and intentionally racist." Stick around while I completely dismantle this ridiculous ideology. Okay, guys, let's get right to it. I'm going to show you the tweet that Congresswoman Rashida Tlaib put out, and then I'm going to give it some context, say some initial words, and then we're going to walk through it piece by piece and break down not only the ideology in this tweet, but the whole situation with Daunte Wright in Minnesota. It wasn't an accident. Policing in our country is inherently and intentionally racist. Daunte Wright was met with aggression and violence. I am done with those who condone government-funded murder. No more policing, incarceration, and militarization. It can't be reformed. I agree with Detroit Police James Craig, who in the Detroit Free Press was quoted responding to this tweet by saying this: "This was a tragic incident, and it should have never happened. But when these tragedies happen, you shouldn't just broad brush the entire profession." This is not the first time those two have clashed in the news. At least if you're like me and from Michigan, you've seen their interactions in the past. Some of that has made national news. But I agree with the chief here that this is a tragedy. And I want to be very, very clear in the outset. This video isn't about saying, well, Wright was a criminal, so he, quote unquote, had it coming. You know, play stupid games, win stupid prizes. And although I agree with that in principle, I'm not here to gloat. I'm not here to take joy or pleasure in any way, shape, or form that a life was lost, because whoever loved Daunte Wright got the news that day that he was no longer there. And so knowing what being in that position is like, I would never wish it upon anyone. But at the same time, we can't take that circumstance and then use it to justify an ideology that is not rooted in the truth. And that's what I want to get after today. So let's jump into this tweet, and I want to break it down piece by piece for you as quickly as I can, but as accurately as I can. First thing she says is, it wasn't an accident. Okay, yes, it was. I mean, I don't know. I don't know how she can say that. She wasn't there. She doesn't know them. I mean, she's basically saying she knows the intent of a 26-year police veteran in that situation. She knows the intent. It couldn't have been an accident. Why? Because Rashida Tlaib says so. I mean, this is just asinine. Anyone with any modicum of common sense should be able to look at that and go, yeah, but how do you know? I mean, this is a problem. And you know what's crazy to me is that as someone who has spent well over a year of my life in Facebook or Instagram jail or whatever, and has been fact-checked worse than a prostate exam multiple times, like, this is just mind-blowing to me that someone that is an elected official has carte blanche to literally just make stuff up that's inflammatory on an open case like this, and there's no fact-checking going on. There's no warning on her tweets that's saying could be false information. It's just nuts. But it was an accident. When you watch the video back, and I'm not going to show the entirety of the video, but there's clips, you'll hear in the background here of this video, you'll hear her say, and she's saying and acting as though she's going to tase someone. She has her gun in her hand. Now, what I do not know is the full range of training that her department receives as far as positioning of a taser on the belt and how that she's trained for that. I mean, she's gone 26 years without doing this before, so I don't know exactly the whole training situation behind it, but at the end of the day, she's not intending to shoot this man. She even says, basically, oh my God, I shot him. Like, she didn't realize what she had done. That doesn't justify the negligence, and we'll get into that, but it does indicate, everything that we see so far clearly indicates this was not intentional. Doesn't mean that she's not responsible, but it does mean it's not intentional from what we can see and understand. And to just open this statement up with, it's not an accident, it's just, she has no position, no ground to stand on to make that claim. Next, policing in our country is inherently and intentionally racist. Again, here we're talking about a claim that has no factual basis whatsoever. I mean, literally none. There's no factual information to substantiate this. You don't refute it with, wow. Rarely do you hear something this stupid that it makes me speechless. Like, part of the way that we need to see this is as looking at the inverse, right? Okay, look at the inverse of what happened and then do the same thing and apply race as a factor. Daunte Wright was wanted. The active warrant was for having possession of a firearm that he wasn't allowed to have in his possession because of other open court cases and not having a permit, and fleeing from the police. There are literal videos of this young man. I don't know what he's trying to portray, but it's not the sweet photos that some media outlets will share as though this person was just randomly picked out of a hat. In fact, Rashida Tlaib is saying this wasn't random. If we are intentionally, as police officers, intentionally and inherently racist, they didn't pull him over for a traffic violation. They pulled him over with the hopes that they could harm a person of another skin color. Even though there is absolutely zero evidence that that is what happened, she can put it out there. But let's think about the inverse. He was wanted for carrying a gun. He already had an armed robbery case in the past that he was to appear on in August, breaking into a woman's home and holding her at gunpoint, robbing her of like $180 or something like that. Don't quote me on the numbers, but he had an open case that he was to appear on in August for that. And then during that case, there was reports up in Minneapolis that he had a gun in a car, and when the police showed up, he fled. They did not catch him. So that was what the warrant was for on that open case. There was probable cause to believe that he was the one with the gun in the car when he shouldn't be having a gun, because he was the person who had been accused on probable cause of breaking into someone's home and robbing them. So if the police are inherently racist because they're the police, what if we did the inverse and said Daunte Wright was inherently a criminal because of his race? That would rightly be a ridiculous statement to make, because it has no basis in fact. It has no basis in truth. And so we don't say that. But yet a congresswoman, an elected official, can just willy-nilly, to be an old man phrase, say that the police are intentionally and inherently racist. The whole situation, if you just take it, what she just said, and inverse it and apply it to race for the other side of the equation, the criminal in question, it starts to not make sense. Daunte Wright, it says, was met with aggression and violence. Okay, Daunte Wright was met with red and blue lights. Well, I don't know, maybe in Minnesota they have different colors, but he was met with lights and a traffic stop, being advised that he was getting arrested because of a warrant for his arrest, a lawful order from a court to take a person into custody. That is the job of the police. When the court says this person is in violation of something, or there is probable cause to arrest this person for a previous crime that he had not been caught for because he ran from the cops and got away, go arrest this man when you can, right? Or when you come in contact with him. There is a lawful order to do so. That's how law and order is maintained, that people who perpetrate crimes are arrested and held accountable for their actions. So there was no aggression and violence. There was a traffic stop for a traffic infraction, and when the information was ran in the system, this open warrant came up. He was advised of the same. He was out of the vehicle, and when the handcuffs were going on, he decided to respond to his arrest with aggression and violence. He did that. Daunte Wright met the officers with aggression and violence. Rashida Tlaib literally has it backwards. He was not met with aggression and violence. There was an aggressive response to his aggression and violence. When a suspect escalates a situation, the police are to respond. Well, that's how it works. When you're told you have to go to jail for that and answer for the crime, the proposed crime, the probable cause that existed to get a warrant crime, well, what do you expect to happen if you try to run and you try to go back in the car? See, the police would have also seen past cases or warrants as well involving firearms. Now he's going back into the vehicle. So he escalated the situation violently and aggressively, not the police. I am done with those who condone government-funded murder. Okay, who is condoning government-funded murder? Who? Anybody? You guys know? Who's doing that? This was not murder. Murder would require intent to kill someone. It's just simply not murder. She has resigned. I think she gave it like a 2-sentence resignation letter and said that she has loved serving the community. She's done so for 26 years, and now resigning now is in the best interest of the community. And she has since been charged with second-degree manslaughter. I'm going to explain what that could mean in a second for her, but this is not, no one's condoning murder. No one, literally no one, is condoning murder. It's funny that if she believes that the system, the entirety of our system with law and order involving police is inherently racist, is inherently and intentionally racist, that she is okay taking a paycheck from that system. That's interesting. You see, because this isn't about facts, this isn't about truth. Honestly and sadly, this isn't about Daunte Wright. This is about Rashida Tlaib. This is about an ideology that says that there is a power structure in place and there are oppressed groups, and the more intersection of oppression that you have, the more right you have to speak out against the man, and that the only way to stop this is by force. We have to take it back. That whole system of ideology is rooted in falsehoods and contradicted by every single available fact. But when you can just tweet whatever that's contrary to actual information, and that helps encourage your base to vote for you again and keep that paycheck rolling from the inherently racist system while you call it racist, well, you know, it's a win for someone, isn't it? All right, let's wrap this up. No more policing, incarceration, and militarization. It can't be reformed. Okay, so you can't reform it, so your elected official whose job is to help reform and make changes, but this can't be done. So then why are we paying you anyway again? But let's think about this. No more policing. Okay, that makes sense. Just take a look, and I don't even want to tell you. I'm not even going to give you numbers. I'm going to tell you, go to the Google machine, look up the crime stats in Portland from 2019 to 2020. Look at the homicide rate in Philadelphia from 2019 to 2020. Look at the crime rates in New York City, 2019 to 2020. Tell me that all these places, one of the things which they have in common is the principle, the ideology driving the leadership of those cities of defund the police, and tell me how that has impacted crime. Tell me how this removing the intentionally racist and inherently racist police have helped your community. I'm all ears. No more incarceration. So, okay, that makes sense, right? Your mom, she is robbed at gunpoint. Your sister, maybe she ends up getting carjacked or raped. Your brother, he was working at a convenience store and gets thumped on the head in a robbery. Whatever happens, you know, in the crime world that impacts and creates a victim, you know, a child is harmed in some way. The perpetrator is caught, and then what? I mean, having no bail, that's hot right now.
So hot right now.
I mean, where are they supposed to go if they ending incarceration? What's the punishment? How do people pay for their crimes? if they don't have money, right? As if money is going to help bring someone back or solve someone being a victim of a violent crime anyway. But how are the criminals supposed to be punished? And militarization. This is a term, again, probably deserves its own video, but no more militarization. I don't think that she's calling for the end of the military. I think she's saying don't militarize the police, which means don't give them any equipment that came from overflow from the military, or I'm assuming that's what she means, but I'll let her statement stand on itself. So don't give them the tools they need to address, threats to community. Makes total sense. That's going to make everybody safer. It can't be reformed. Listen, yes, it can. Where there's problems, yes, they can. Yes, it can be reformed. But you know what you can't do is you can't change human nature. And I'm going to bring this back full circle real quick. First of all, the reforms that are needed, you've missed the mark. We do need more training, better training, more consistent training. We need to have leadership that inspires the best candidates for law enforcement and not people who just breathe enough oxygen for a long enough time to be cops. There's a lot of things that we can do better. Absolutely. I agree with that. But to say that it can't be reformed is really silly because, again, you're in Congress. If you didn't believe something could be reformed, why are you taking our money to say it can't be done? But one of the things you cannot reform is just humanity, in the sense of we are flawed humans. Officer Kim Potter will need to pay for her mistakes, right? And she's being charged with second-degree manslaughter, which means by the person's culpable negligence, whereby the person creates an unreasonable risk and consciously takes chances of causing death or great bodily harm to another. Now, that's where the case is going to get interesting. Did she consciously know that she was going to risk his life? That will be the debate. The jury will have to decide, is there reasonable doubt that she was consciously being negligent, that her actions could cause his death if she thought that she was holding a taser and she wasn't. But what you cannot change is you cannot change that 26 years someone is going to serve their community and then make that tragic decision and mistake that, for all practical purposes, I mean, if you believe Ms. Tlaib, she's inherently racist, so she had to do it. Or she made a mistake under extreme stress against a violent subject and she can't take it back, and she's going to have to be held responsible for that. And that's proof that our system works. She has been arrested and charged with the crime. She is being held responsible. Who arrested her? Who booked her? Oh, other racist cops. Because unlike Rashida Tlaib, who is being held unaccountable for her false ideology, cops do actually hold each other accountable. Because when you see Kim Potter's booking photo and you see the charges, where do you think it came from? Guys, I don't know if this video is helpful or not. I just felt like I had to get it out there. And maybe you like this format of video. It's a little bit longer, I know. If you like it, hey, give it a thumbs up, give it a share. Hit the notification bell if you're on YouTube, especially, so that it notifies you of future videos. I appreciate you guys so much and your support over the years, and we'll talk to you soon. Oh, Rashida, if you want to come into my studio, I'm not far from your district, and you can sit across the other side of the table and justify all this stuff in person. The invitation is open.